Brighton will be looking to get one step closer to a first FA Cup title in the club's history when they host Nottingham Forest in their quarter-final tie tomorrow night. We heard from Fabian Hurzeler earlier this morning. To reflect on that now, we can cross to Mark McAdam, who's at Brighton for us. Hi there, Mark. I mean, this is a chance for the club to make history in this competition, isn't it? How's Hurzeler feeling ahead of, such a huge game for the club?
Yeah, absolutely. Who doesn't want to make history at the football club? Fabian Hurzeler in his first season as Brighton and Hove Albion head coach. And it's been going rather well recently. They're in with a shout of getting European football for only the second time in the club's history. And of course, just 90 minutes away from potentially going to Wembley and getting to an FA Cup semi-final, which would only be the third time in the club's history that they've ever achieved that. The last time was back in 2022-23 when they were beaten by Manchester United after it finished 0-0 in normal time. They were beaten on penalties. Before that, it was 2018-2019 where they were beaten by Manchester City. They did get to the FA Cup final in 1983, but there's obviously a few games to go between now and that kind of an achievement. But they are on the verge of doing something special. And they go into this weekend's game with Nottingham Forest in excellent form. They've not lost in their last 7 games. They've won 6 of them. And off the back of the international break, the final one of this season, Fabian Hurzeler went back home to Germany and was reminded about just how important the FA Cup is.
When I spent some time in my hometown walking through the city, one of the Brighton supporter called my name and said he's really looking forward towards the game. So even in my free time, he said that we have to give everything in this game. And of course you feel it, but for me it's important that we don't make it like artificial big. It's of course an important game. It's an important game like all the other games. So we say, because in all the games we can improve ourselves. In all the games we have to go to the limits, and that's what we have to do tomorrow.
Mark, it was a night to forget, wasn't it, for Brighton the last time these sides faced off Forest with that 7-0 drubbing last month. Is this a chance at revenge?
Yeah, revenge, absolutely. But the Brighton boss wasn't reflecting upon that game in any different way to other defeats that they've had this season. They drew a line under it. They looked at it, they spoke to each other, they addressed what went wrong, and then they changed things. And they've certainly changed things since that disappointing 7-0 defeat, because since then, they've won 6 out of their last 7 matches. They haven't been beaten. And it feels like that was a really significant and poignant moment in their season, which has now been the catalyst for such a strong run. And he actually revealed in today's press conference about how the players dealt with that disappointment. Here's what Fabian said.
We took, especially the players, they took a lot of ownership, they took a lot of responsibility, and they said, okay, we have to go back to the roots, we have to go back to the things that made us strong. And the things that make us strong is like working together, so showing a togetherness, showing intensity, and having this belief that we can beat every team in the league, but only if you push your limits, if you keep the standards high. And that's what we try to do through the whole season, and that's what we also try to do for the final part of the season.
So there you go, that's the thoughts of Fabian Hurzeler, who was speaking to the media at the training centre today. And before I hand back to you, Hayley, there'll be a lot of Brighton and Hove Albion fans sat at home saying, what's the latest with injury news? Because we've got so many question marks over players at the moment. There's been a lot of players that have been away on international duty as well. And I have got some positive news, because Fabian Hurzeler revealed in today's press conference that Lewis Dunk is back and in contention to play for Brighton and Hove Albion. So that's going to be a huge boost for the Brighton head coach, because Lewis Dunk, who has played in excess of 400 games for Brighton, he is the skipper, he is the main man, he is the leader. He is back since the beginning of February after injury, so that's a really big boost as well. Other players to keep an eye on: Matt O'Reilly is also back in contention. Solly March should be okay. That's the exact words of Fabian there. Unfortunately, no Joel Veltman or no Tariq Lamptey. He's going to be out for 3, 4, 5 weeks because of an ankle injury as well. start. And the players that travelled to Japan, Kaoru Mitoma, who didn't play in the second game, also has returned back to the South Coast with no problems, although there was a little niggle. He should be available. And Joao Pedro on the bench for that Brazil-Argentina game is also back in the building. So a number of players with question marks, but I think the fact that Lewis Dunk is back in contention will be a huge boost for the Brighton and Hove Albion fans and for Fabian Hurzeler, who is looking upon this game as a huge opportunity because they are now just 90 minutes away from a potential trip to Wembley and an FA Cup semi-final.